What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Beyond the Backboard Podcast, episode 72. My name is Omar. Next to me is Max. Below me, holding down the fort, is Earl. Today, we're going to break down every single crazy trade that happened this weekend, and it's going to be exciting to talk about. I think the one that took center stage so far already has been the Luka trade. I know we just talked about it on Friday because, well, it happened then, kind of in the middle of the night. But
Sunday.
yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I apologize because we had the emergency pod. That's right. We had the emergency pod posted on YouTube. If you guys haven't checked that out, go ahead and check that out. But yeah, we had an emergency conversation about Luka Doncic and his sudden emergence as a Laker. And now apparently he might be playing Saturday. So Earl, I can only imagine, is very, very excited.
Hey man, I'm just living in the future, in the present, wherever I'm at. I don't know. We ball.
We ball
We ball.
indeed.
Ball up top.
Go for it. Sorry. I didn't mean.
No, I'm just saying, ball up top. That's how I'm feeling right now. Check up.
All right. Well, you may have to be checking up against De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama. Apparently a new duo that is currently going to be messing up the West pretty valiantly. First thing I want to ask you guys before we get into it today. Now my prediction seems a little more real. The San Antonio Spurs entering the play-in tournament. I think they can reach the play-in / playoffs with this roster. If they go on a certain roll, I think they can do it. What do you guys think of that?
I definitely think this positions them in a much better situation to be competitive, obviously, right now and down the line. The fact that they were able to keep all of their young pieces, kind of the players you would say aren't necessarily the core of their team going forward, but the promising talent that they had that they could develop, the Jeremy Sohans, the Stephon Castles, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. We assumed that it was going to take at least one of them to land De'Aaron Fox in a trade. I mean, we talked about it on this podcast literally a week ago when the news that De'Aaron Fox could be available dropped. We were talking about potential candidates. Obviously, Omar threw out the name of the Spurs, and rightly so. But I think even you were assuming that they would have to give up someone of real value in this trade, when in reality, all they had to get rid of was Zach Collins, who is a solid NBA player. But obviously, when you have Victor Wembanyama, Zach Collins is never going to be the biggest priority on that team. They gave Trey Jones, who I still think is a solid backup point guard, still has a decent future in the NBA. But again, when you have Chris Paul, Stephon Castle, and now you're trading for De'Aaron Fox, Trey Jones is not necessarily a priority. And I think City Cisco, who's played only a handful of NBA games so far in his career, to be able to get De'Aaron Fox, obviously the picks are involved there too. That's what you have the first round picks for. But to land a clear talent upgrade in the backcourt in De'Aaron Fox without having to really give up any of your core pieces is great, not only for their future, but like Omar said, also for the now. This positions them to where this team, as it is with Chris Paul in the backcourt alongside De'Aaron Fox, I tend to think Chris Paul will come off the bench, but we can get into potential lineups later if we want to. This team definitely can make a push. They're not that far outside of the play-in / playoffs right now. They're kind of in that whole fat group of the West where anything could go either way. If you go on a little 3-4 game streak and someone ahead of you loses 2 games, you jump them in the standings. You can jump up from like 10th to 5th pretty easily. So again, I'd have to look at their schedule, see what their injury, status is, but there's a lot of ball left to be played. I want to say there's 35-ish games in the regular season, 30 games. There's plenty of time. The question is going to be how quickly can this gel? If De'Aaron Fox can come in and make a smooth, seamless transition to this offense, then I think Omar could be right. We could be looking at the Spurs at the very least in the play, and I think they have to be expected to at least make the play-in. And if they can make the playoffs in year 2 of Wemby, year 1 with Fox, I think that would be a successful year no matter how far they wind up going.
Yeah, hell yeah.
For me, I think it's I'm kind of in between. I definitely think this makes them a powerhouse for the future in general, but I do think there are a lot more, I'll say, obstacles as far as them getting into the play and keeping that spot. Looking at the West, it's really close until you start getting to I have it pulled up right here. Until you start getting to 12 through 15. Right now, the Spurs are 4 games back from just the 11th seed. They're 21 wins. I think the 11 seed Golden State Warriors have 25. So they have to win, but not only that, the teams in front of them have to keep losing. Golden State, I know they probably could. The Phoenix Suns, the Kings, they could fall, they could not. I don't know how they're going to look with Zach Lavine, which we haven't got to yet. Dallas Mavericks, of course. Minnesota Timberwolves. It's just a lot of I don't know. It's a little bit uncertain, I feel like, for the Kings this season. I do agree. I think for the future, they're a powerhouse. You have Victor, you have Wemby. Didn't have to give up Stephon Castle. I mean, you got Devin Vassell, still Keldon Johnson. They gave up none of their core pieces around Wemby. Like, that was
It's ridiculous, right?
the best
It's crazy.
value trade for the Spurs in general. So, for me, I think it's going to be a little bit, I don't want to say harder, but the error for margin is very, very small for them right now as far as competing this year. But I really love the move. I think we all talked about this on the podcast a lot. What happens when you put a great guard next to Wemby? We talked about LaMelo. We talked about Cade Cunningham. Well, guess what? It ended up being De'Aaron Fox, which is one of the better two-way point guards we have in the NBA.
I think we talked about De'Aaron Fox.
Not initially, though. Like, I don't think it was like our first instinct when we brought up point guards for Wemby.
Yeah, not at the start of the season. I think, because at the start of the season, we were under the
after the rumors, of course,
but the next little while.
Yeah.
And another thing I'll say about the Spurs, to be fair, they are a little lower now that I'm actually seeing the standings here. Good pull, Earl, actually looking at the standings. They are a little lower than I thought. I still do think they can make a run. The biggest question for me right now surrounding Fox in San Antonio is going to be his efficiencies. He is definitely a big numbers guy. Like, you look at his numbers, you say, why hasn't he been an all-star more in his career? I think the thing that's holding him back, obviously he's playing in a stacked Western Conference, a lot of great guards. But the thing that for me is kept him back from being like reaching that final step of his progression has been his efficiencies. He's never really been a mega efficient player. I mean, he shoots 47% from the field, I think, this season, as well as his career average, which is, it's fine. It's not great. It's not terrible. 3-point percentage, I think he's a career 33% shooter this year. He's only shooting 32. He shot pretty well last year, and it looked like he was maybe starting to tick that up, but this year he's kind of regressed back to his career mean. So I think that is kind of the question. And obviously, you say he's a good two-way player. He does lead the league. He did lead the league in steals last year, so 2 steals. So I will give him his flowers there, but he is still a pretty small, undersized point guard at the end of the day that, he can get good numbers, but he's not really, he could be a guy that teams could target. If they have bigger guards, I think being able to play the post, putting him in pick and roll actions, that is, I think, something that we have to question with De'Aaron Fox. Obviously, he is a fantastic player. I'm not trying to take that away from him. But for me, if he's going to take that final step and be like a true dominant lead guard for this Spurs team, the thing they have to teach him is how to play efficient basketball. Get his effective field goal percentage up. Be at least competent on defense. You don't have to be, again, he leads the league in steals. That's great. But get him to be a slightly better on-ball defender, or at least find ways to hide him defensively. Those are really the only questions I have with Fox, because obviously, talent-wise and numbers-wise, he's up there with the best of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I have to agree.
I agree with you. And then look on the other side. I was about to say, let's flip it to the other side. Like, I like Zach Lavine. Bro, it's kind of crazy. I think I like Zach Lavine with Sabonis.
I don't
know. He's like, the way I look at it is Lavine. He's already played with, well, I won't even say I feel like Vucevic was like mainly a scorer, but he knows how to play well with bigs who can put up big numbers.
I mean, they're essentially copying what they did in Chicago. And
I mean, but Sabonis, you're talking about Zach Lavine, he can score. He's a 3-level scorer. Zach Lavine is a 3-level scorer. I don't see him having any problem meshing with Sabonis, someone who knows how to get his teammates involved. He's going to crash offensive glass. Zach Lavine's a great catch-and-shoot 3-point shooter. Like, I think it's a almost perfect match. The only thing I don't know DeMar DeRozan.
I mean, that was the problem also in Chicago was DeMar DeRozan. Like, I think they just didn't mesh well together.
But I think they did. Their numbers were good together.
I mean, they were okay, but I mean, it was kind of like one did well, the other didn't do well. One had to do really well, or the other would have to do really bad. It was a give and take situation in most nights. Let me highlight that.
I think, Omar, I think you're getting at something right here. I'll point out the fact that the one time where we did see Lavine and DeRozan thriving in Chicago was when they had Lonzo Ball as their point guard. Because you're right, that Lavine and DeRozan are both very ball-dominant, offensive-minded players. And I think if you're going to make that work, you need a point guard like Lonzo Ball, who is a facilitator. He's a connector. He's not someone who needs to get his shots up. He's very adept at, setting guys up, making sure that Lavine gets his shots, DeRozan gets his shots. Because we saw that was when it was working. Chicago was winning a lot of games with those two at the head.
But that's my point, guys.
Right below them was Lonzo Ball kind of making everything happen.
That's my point. That's what Sabonis does. Sabonis is the hub.
I do think Sabonis can be that, but now
he has been.
Really lacks a true point guard. I mean, their starting point guard is probably going to be Malik Monk, who is, I don't think, ever played point guard in his whole career. He's always been a two guard, a pretty good two guard at that. Maybe they try and make Keon Ellis a point guard. I don't know. They don't have Davion Mitchell anymore. I think the key to that team, if they can land like a playmaking connector point guard, I don't think they could do it at this deadline. Maybe in the offseason, if they can land that point guard, I could see the Lavine and DeRozan reunion having more success long term. But I think until they figure out who to put next to Lavine in that backcourt to kind of make everything work, I think they're going to struggle. Because I see what you're saying with Sabonis, but he's kind of, you can't rely on Sabonis to be the dominant rebounder, the offensive anchor, playing with his back to the basket.
You also really can't,
and also facilitate for Lavine. And
I was going to add on to that. Yeah,
but that makes his job easier though. Having Lavine out there, the problem with the Kings too, which we talked about. I mean, I feel like 3-point shooting was a big problem for the Kings just in general. I mean, you're getting Zach Lavine. I forget last time we checked what his 3-point percentage was, but he was kind of high up there with the league averages.
Oh, it's stellar. It's like 44% or something.
He's a top. Yeah.
This year,
I don't think the issue is. I don't think that's the issue. So when we look at the Sacramento Kings, we look at things that they need, and something that they really needed during their run was maybe a little more defense. I think we can all agree on that, right?
You mean when they were the third seed in the West, that run, and played Golden State?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, yeah, because that team was definitely.
But let me get where I'm going to. So let's assess the situation. You're the Kings. You look at your roster. You look at your needs, and you look at the things that you can continue to let happen. Mm-hmm. The thing that should have stayed the same essentially was the offensive output. You don't need to put Zach Lavine, who's dominant on ball, who's dominant on offense guard, who's a guard forward, who's essentially going to add to that offensive mix. You're going to have too much cooks in the kitchen. It's going to be another one of those situations where you have too many cooks in the kitchen, and then you're left with no defense, and you may have one of the best offenses in the league, but you have the bottom worst defense, and you let every team walk by you like you're a doormat. So it's gonna be really interesting. Like, whatever. I mean, we saw this happen in Chicago when DeMar and Lavine got together. I don't see how it's any different. Frankly, I just don't.
I'll still speak what I said. I think it works, man. Like, even like the conversation about Lavine being super, super ball dominant, even in Chicago, that really wasn't the case. This last year where we played with Kobe White, he did a good job of kind of deferring to Kobe White and played that true shooting guard position. Most of his shots were catch and shoots. When he got the ball, yes, he can create his own offense. He also did a good job of getting his teammates involved as well. I mean, it's not like the most assists in the world, but he averaged around 5 assists a game, shooting 44% from 3, 5 rebounds, 24 points. I think him next to Sabonis, I still do agree with you guys. I think they do need they need a point guard, obviously, the Kings. But as far as like a last minute Fox move, hey, I want to go to the Spurs, I definitely would have loved them to get like a Castle. Of course, everybody did. But
I mean they should have gotten like Keldon Johnson.
But the thing about the trade is the Spurs had all the leverage in the deal. Fox put his foot down, said, I don't want to go to anyone but the Spurs. And their thought process is, okay, we either get them now or we just wait till next season.
I think it was a little bit of both sides there, because when De'Aaron has been really loyal to the Sacramento Kings, so I feel like this was one of those situations where it was just like, listen, you've been so loyal to us. If you tell us you want to go somewhere, we're going to find a way to send you there. Like, it was probably one of those situations.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen it happen before. Let's be real.
Well, the thing with Fox is his contract is going to be up after next year, not the end of this season, the next season.
Yeah.
So I think it was pretty clear that any other team that got him was probably only getting a year and a half rental, and then he was just going to go to the Spurs. Because the Spurs, if they could have easily signed him in, I guess, the 2026 offseason, they don't have massive contracts that they can't get off between now and then. If they knew
I'll tell you this, NBA owners
signed him pretty easily.
NBA owners hate X. I'll tell you that much. Because
hey, what?
NBA owners, they must hate X. Because if
Twitter,
because
okay, my fault.
The amount of news that comes out on X itself from like individual reporters that maybe shouldn't be let loose, like trade destinations, like where De'Aaron wanted to go and stuff like that. I don't think the San Antonio Spurs necessarily want that to get out, because it's like you want to be able to trade him to wherever you want and get as much assets for him. But I meant to say Sacramento Kings there, but
yeah, I was about to say
San Antonio.
Yeah. I don't think Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Earl.
No. Go ahead. I didn't really have nothing crazy.
I don't think Sacramento is in the worst position. Like, I do want to give Zach Lavine his flowers.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of the best offensive players in all of basketball right now, currently in the prime of his career. I mean, he's averaging 24 points a game with great efficiencies, getting some assists, getting some rebounds here. He is a very dominant offensive player. So at the very least, the Kings can look at this and say, we did get a pretty darn good player in return for De'Aaron Fox. I do think they could have got more in way of future assets and draft capital. It doesn't look terrible considering the trade that the Mavericks just did and getting 1 first-round pick for Luka Doncic. You can say, hey, at least we got 3, technically 2 because 1 doesn't exist, 2 first-round picks for De'Aaron Fox. But, it's a case of, like Omar said, kind of what can you put around him? Like, where do you go from it? Because I think we can all agree this team is not a championship contender as currently.
For sure.
And is the future of the team trying to look for a way out of the DeRozan contract and trying to retool around Lavine and Sabonis? Is that your future? Is your future trading Sabonis and then going rebuild? In which case, why did you get Lavine? It's just a very odd situation in Sacramento. So I don't think they're going to be bad necessarily, but this doesn't put them in an upper echelon of contention right now. I mean, I guess it was never going to if you're trading away one of your best players, but it also doesn't set them up that great for the future. I mean, those 2 picks could be good. They could not be. But to not even get a decent player, like a decent young player, to kind of say, all right, at least we have him in this trade, it doesn't put them in the best spot as far as that's concerned, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, the funny thing is, I mean, they're missing a guard. They traded away 2 better guards in the NBA right now, Tyrese Haliburton and De'Aaron Fox, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, they went from having point guards to having none.
The reason they traded Tyrese Haliburton,
they have to be blowing it up, right?
No, I don't. I mean, it's hard to blow it. Like, I don't know, bro.
If they want,
I don't get it. I mean, I really don't.
This is how it
goes. Went from a situation where you needed one more thing that you didn't end up trading for, and now you need a point guard. So it's like
windows, bro. We always talk about windows, championship windows, stuff like that. I don't think the Kings were ever in this championship window. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think they had the right core to make things work. Like Sabonis, good, yes. De'Aaron Fox, good, yes. But around that, I don't think they connected the right pieces, in my opinion. And now, I think they're just in the let's just go out there and sell tickets era. I mean, Zach Lavine is going to – you'll have your fun with Zach Lavine. Like Max said, he's not a bad player. Zach Lavine is having one of his best seasons, I feel like, as far as overall player of his career. He's shooting 44% on almost 8 3-point attempts a game. Like, that's impressive. That's like, I don't know when he is close to the average, but he's got to be top 5 3-point percent shooting. I don't know. Y'all can check that. But it's like at the last minute for a Fox deal, week before the deadline, they felt like they had to get a deal done. I don't think it's the worst trade in the world. The only problem I have with this whole thing, obviously the picks, I agree. If I'm not mistaken, I don't even think the picks were that valuable in general. So that part is tough. I mean, I don't know what he was cooking in the kitchen, but they got at least a good player and value back. So we'll see what happens. I do like the fit of him and Sabonis.
It just makes me.
I think they complement each other perfectly.
I gotta disagree there. I don't
watch the first game, bro. I promise you.
Because Max, as Max said earlier, right? Max said earlier, the only reason why Zach Lavine and DeMar DeRozan worked at some point was because of Lonzo Ball, and he was able to facilitate the ball. You can't rely on Sabonis to do that. I'm
That was
sorry.
true at first, and then what happened? Kobe White emerged, and the Bulls with Kobe White starting. Because even Lonzo Ball being back, yeah, I get it. He was coming
it
off the
still
bench.
didn't work.
I mean, it worked enough. Like it wasn't like 100% consistent.
Not really.
Not to be,
They were
not to be a top seed in the East.
They were a play-in team at best.
And they still are, though. That's what I'm saying. That's not the point. I just think in general, I agree. Lonzo Ball was
a play-in team at best at this point. I think they're a bottom.
Who, the Bulls?
Dude, they're a sub-10 team after this.
I'm saying with or without Lavine right now, the Bulls are going to be like playing at best with Lonzo playing with that roster. Yes or no?
Wait, what are you saying though?
No, I'm saying that my whole point is I think that the fit works with Sabonis in general. I get they need a point guard. I understand that.
Yeah.
But I think the way their game plays work, I think those two can mesh well. That's my only point.
I think they can mesh well, but I doubt the ceiling of this team without a true point guard if they want to be truly elite. I think, like I said, Lavine and Sabonis are going to make each other better, but I don't know how much that can translate to winning basketball when the defense is lacking, you don't have a true point guard, and DeRozan factors into all
this.
I mean,
seems like a very
good. I'd be surprised if they don't make the playoffs at least, but
I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised. This seems like a very lateral deal to me. I mean, sure, their talent may be comparable in the sense like they may be just as good as each other, but to be honest, that's not what the Kings needed. And again, I said this earlier. Watch this, y'all. Everybody in the chat, watch this. There's too many cooks in the kitchen in the King's palace. And no matter what's gonna happen, they're falling out of whatever. I know. You just gotta bear with me, man. You gotta interrupt me.
My bad. Continue. My bad. It was just a new line.
I lost my train of thought because of you.
Cooks in the palace, cooking on the palace, on the stairs in the palace.
It doesn't matter. Is essentially what I'm trying to say. It's not gonna matter. This Kings team is essentially going to tank. What's gonna happen to Sabonis? I don't know, but this is the markings of a team that has given up.
But if they gave up, why would they trade for Lavine, which is one of the most unmovable contracts in basketball?
So
I don't think they've given up. I still think they're just trying to be competitive.
Okay, so then why did they approach the the Aaron Fox about trading him?
They didn't. Fox requested a trade.
No,
that was Fox's call.
No, he didn't.
No,
he didn't. No. They walked up to him.
I thought he did.
They requested a meeting with him, and they said, "Hey, how do you feel about us trading you?" And then Rich Paul, right? Rich Paul is his agent. Did I say Rich Paul? Yeah, I said Rich Paul.
Mm-hmm.
That's his agent, right? I'm bugging.
I'll be honest, I'm not really sure, but okay.
I don't know. Somebody came out and said, his agent came out and said, I'm pretty sure it was Rich Paul, that he only wanted to be
a Spur. But still, I mean, again, that doesn't mean you have to trade him. If they wanted to go all in and get younger players, they could have just done the trade straight up with the Spurs. Why get the Bulls involved if they didn't want a player Zach Lavine's caliber right now?
Well, I mean, that was more of a money situation. That's kind of like what the Jazz did.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the money wound up going to Chicago. Chicago got the Zach Collins contract and the Trey Jones contract. They could have made the money work for Fox if they wanted to. I don't know. I think they were better. If they were going to blow it up, you don't take Zach Lavine. No team is going to take $45 million Zach Lavine for the next 2 years if they're trying to blow it up. Yeah,
but I'm taking a 30-year-old who's getting out of his prime.
He's having one of his best years, though. If you're trying to blow it up now, Zach's going to win you too many games. You see that with Chicago.
I don't think he's having one of his best years.
You don't think who's not having one of their best years?
Zach Lavine.
You're just wrong on that, dog. Check his stats. He's averaging 24 points a game.
That's a
He's having an elite year.
On ESPN
he's not an all-star because the Bulls are a good
This
team.
is the best he's ever shot from three, bro.
He's top 5 in three-point
in his whole career. This is the best he's ever shot from three in a season.
He's having an elite season, objectively, and he's still 29. So I think you got 2 or 3 more years of this Lavine. Maybe not peak Lavine, but like he's going to be a 20-point-a-game scorer at least till he's 33, 34. I don't see that changing. If you're trying to blow it up, you don't trade for Lavine. And you trade for Lavine if you are trying to at least still be remotely competitive. They got, it's like they got Lavine, they got some picks. They kind of do a little bit of both. They're going to be good now. And plus, I mean, if you can't blow it up with DeRozan anyways. It's like, unless you can find a suitor for DeRozan, the Kings are in too deep to blow it up. And I think they know that. They just traded
then
Fox
why
now
did
because
they
they
trade
figure this is the
De'Aaron
peak of his
Fox?
value.
What do they see in Zach Lavine that they don't see in De'Aaron Fox?
I think they see a guy who will be on the team in a year and a half.
This is what they said. This is why they trade him now, bro. The reason they trade him now is, one, like Max said, he has an extra year on his contract. He is going to leave regardless. After this, there's a reason he didn't sign his contract extension. He already told them he wasn't signing it. He wasn't going to sign it this summer, and he was going to test free agency. The reason you do it now is to get something back. I do agree they probably could have got a more valuable asset back, but I don't think Zach Lavine's the worst you could have got on the market as far as like a player who will be able to score the ball, shoot it efficiently. Like Max said, he has great splits for the next, 3-4 years.
Yeah.
I think this is what they got. Like, this is what they could come up with.
It's more so about it shows the direction they want to go in. If they wanted to blow it up, they would have just taken younger players. They would have, they would have gotten younger players. They would have gotten more. They wouldn't have needed to go into Chicago to get a good player. The reason they went to Chicago was because they wanted at least a good player now, and the Spurs couldn't really offer them that. All they could offer them was good young players, but not necessarily guys who are going to help them the most now. The fact that they are investing in Zach Lavine and said, we want Zach on this team, tells me they don't plan on blowing it up.
Yeah,
that's what I think. I mean, I don't see how, now that you have Lavine, DeRozan, and Sabonis, I don't know how you blow that up realistically.
I mean, I get it.
I'm not going to say that's a good decision.
I don't see.
I'm not saying that's what they should do, but I'm saying that's what their thinking is.
But I don't even see a better path for them to win a championship now that they had when they had De'Aaron Fox.
Neither do I. I agree with you there. But I'm just talking about what the front office thinks. The front office is probably thinking, we know we're not going to win a championship, but we also want to keep selling tickets. We want to be mildly competitive and just keep a good foundation. We had too many years where we were awful and everyone hated us. We were the laughingstock of the league. We're at least going to be a 500 team for the next few years. We're going to make the playoffs once or twice. We're going to see where that takes us. I think that is what they're thinking. I don't even think they're thinking championship at this point. They're just trying to be decent, which the Kings weren't for a long time.
What you do is you go out there, you filter the best trade you can. I mean, De'Aaron Fox said he was going, and this is what I mean by like leverage as well. Like De'Aaron Fox saying that the Kings would pretty much, the Spurs were pretty much the only team that he would want to play for. You got to think from other GM's perspective. Okay, if I know I can't almost guarantee that De'Aaron Fox is going to sign an extension, why would I give up a great asset to bring him to my team? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just like the 3-team trade worked for them, I guess, because Bulls want to get off that huge contract. He goes there.
Scammed, respectfully.
True. I agree with that part, but it's just like they threw it in there. But either way, they had to get off of Fox. I think the Bulls threw in and like, you know what? Let's piggyback on this. Maybe they were pulling a reverse. What is it? A reverse? Who's that GM from the Okay, I can't finish that analogy because I don't remember who it was. But yeah, I don't. From somebody who didn't think they were competing in the first place, maybe I was a hater, maybe I wasn't. I always said adding DeRozan wasn't going to raise their championship ceilings, and it didn't, even when they had him and Fox. I think they're just, I don't know, get an offensive player to play around Sabonis. Because at the end of the day, it's about Sabonis too. Like, I'm sure Sabonis doesn't want you to just completely just give up. I mean, Sabonis is still there. I haven't seen him show any signs of being like, hey, I just straight up want to leave. He seems pretty loyal to the city. He loves the fans and stuff like that. Obviously, it could change. I don't know how he feels on a day-to-day basis. But I don't know. Yeah.
I will say the biggest losers from this trade are Chicago. To not get – I mean, they get – the only good thing they got here is that they got their own first-round pick back. So they control their own destiny. I believe it's top 10 protected. Yeah. So at least before, if they finished in the top 10, that pick was going to go – there's some weird protections with it. I'm not sure, but at least they get their own pick back. So that's good. They control their own destiny a little bit more there. But other than that, I mean, Zach Collins, Kevin Huerter, did they get Trey Jones? I think they did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they already have Josh Giddey, Dosunmu, Kobe White. This just
and Lonzo.
The fact that the Bulls didn't even get, I know it's what everyone's saying, but they didn't get a first-round pick for Alex Caruso, They got one first-round pick for Alex Caruso, Zach Lavine, and DeMar DeRozan. That is an all-time fumble. The Bulls made the mistake of not trading their assets when they should have, when I think this is just the Kings trying to not make that same mistake. And in the process, they managed to finesse the Bulls even more.
Yeah, I agree. But there was another trade today. Shout out to the Knicks. Shout out to my boy Omar and Max. Your boy's on the move again. Yeah. You guys want to talk about Quentin Grimes?
I did want to bring something up very shortly about the Spurs real quick. I wanted to just display my screen really fast. I don't know if y'all can see it, but the Spurs still have two picks back to back at 10 and 11.
Zoom in. We can barely see that.
That's not even my fault. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, zoom in on your own. Can you not just control?
Yeah, I can zoom in.
Hypothetically, though, speaking.
Yeah, there we go. That's good. All right.
Yeah. So they have two back to. This is Tankathon, by the way. We got Washington up top.
Yeah.
Well, I really hope this isn't the case, but whatever.
Hypothetically, the Spurs could still get number one pick.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, because one of those picks is the Hawks pick, which is another asset they didn't even have to
What just happened?
The Spurs.
I simmed the lottery, and it went up 10 spots.
The thing is, that Hawks pick, now that Jalen Johnson is out for the year, the Hawks are probably going to fall down the standings, at least a little bit. You have to assume that,
definitely,
the Hawks were 500 at best with Jalen Johnson. We know how much Jalen Johnson has done for that team on both ends of the floor. So the fact that he's now MIA for the rest of the season, obviously get well soon, Jalen Johnson. The Spurs could get a top 5 pick.
How did you just spawn in here? It's hilarious.
Dude, this is crazy.
Came at the perfect time. What's up, Dan? Yeah, but
this is
crazy. Spurs are in a great spot. Didn't give up any real assets. Still own valuable picks in this upcoming draft that they can trade later if they want to for even better players that they can draft again.
Did it again.
But yeah, I don't know.
2 for 2.
But yeah.
I'm sorry. This is crazy. 2 for 2.
Yeah, that is a little wild. Yeah, Earl,
I gotta close this. The CIA is gonna get
a couple hours ago, right?
Yes. The Mavericks and the 76ers actually just made a trade that pretty much swapped Caleb Martin and Quentin Grimes. So they're off to each other's cities. Boom. And I believe there was seconds involved, if I'm not mistaken. I
think the Mavericks gave up a second, which is crazy considering they also gave up the better, younger player.
Yeah. How do y'all feel about that? I know you guys have
worst trade in Mavericks history. New worst trade. This surpasses the Luka trade as worst trade for the franchise.
I mean, it doesn't really. What would you like me to say? I mean. He's not a Knick at this time. I could care less. I mean, good for Philly. They got Quentin.
Yeah.
What a horrible attitude. What I'll say is it is kind of strange. I mean, Caleb Martin, I know he's having one of his better seasons in his career, if I'm not mistaken. I will look that up just so I'm not throwing out random.
I mean, he's never going to top that Miami Heat season, that last year in Miami. I don't think he's ever beating that.
Let me see what he's doing this year.
I would listen. All I'll say is I've been the biggest Quentin Grimes fan on this show for a long time. I think he was fitting in really well for Dallas. I was actually pretty excited to see him now that Luka was traded. He fit into that lineup really well when Luka was injured, and now I would assume being able to get the full-time starting 2-guard position next to Kyrie and Anthony Davis. I was really excited to see that happen in Dallas and see him play next to Anthony Davis and be a part of that defense wins championships culture. So the fact that the Mavericks have now traded him to the Knicks' worst enemy, Philadelphia, I hate it. I don't know why he was fitting in really well. He's younger than Caleb Martin. I would argue he's a better player than Caleb Martin right now in terms of overall value on the court. It just doesn't really – I don't see them getting any better here. It's crazy that they also have to give up the pick.
Wait, what's the breaking news? Are you trolling me, Kaden? I have my phone on D&D.
What just happened? Wow.
The last, I'll just say.
That's crazy.
I'm sorry.
All I'll say is it's an
you just a hater, bruh. You just a hater.
Why? What's
that's funny. You got me. He was
crazy
just
work.
But crazy.
Work,
yeah.
bruh.
I agree. There's been some like all right trades. I'll ask you guys this since we both have teams that we support, obviously.
What did I tell you? Luka was not in. Mark was not involved with
I said that too.
Uh,
Mark,
Yeah,
bro,
I didn't
shout
know.
out to Jacob.
He showed majority.
Shout out to Jacob B22.
I didn't know that Mark Cuban wasn't the majority owner anymore. I thought he still
Yeah.
was. So that's why I was saying, like, there's no way this passes without him if he is the majority owner. Although it sounds like the new majority owners didn't even like this trade, and Nico Harrison did it anyways, which is kind of crazy. I'm pretty sure Mark Cuban said that this is not my team anymore, which is about as scathing as a comment as it can get. I understand physically, logistically, that's the thing. He's not a majority owner, but I think he meant it.
Yeah, I mean, I think yesterday Chandler Parsons was talking about it with Mark Cuban, and Mark Cuban was just as surprised as him. So,
I'm happy, bro. I love that organization. Mavericks really. I might get a Mavericks jersey, a custom one, and
You
put
should.
Nico
You
on
really
the back
should.
of it, hang it on my wall. Because without him, the next 10 years of my Lakers organization would not be as fun to watch. So shout out to him.
freaking
He's really the GOAT, man. He's a Laker legend for life. Then we might hang him up in the rafters.
donated.
That's crazy phrasing, first of all. But
okay, you know what I meant. Hang his jersey up in the rafters.
Okay, there you go. On that topic, I know we already talked about it on our video that drops Sunday afternoon, which, by the way, please do check that out on the Beyond the Backboard channel. But I'll be honest, the more that I have thought about this, the less I do like this for Dallas. I still believe what I said about Anthony Davis, and I still do believe that they can still contend for a championship this year and probably next year. But really, when you look at the future of this franchise, their window is incredibly thin. And if they do not win this championship right now, or at least make a finals run, this is going to go down as one of the worst trades. I mean, can you imagine the scenes in LA if Luka leads this team to a championship next year, gets Bron his 5th ring at age 41, and LeBron retires and walks off into the sunset with 5 rings on his fingers thanks to Luka Doncic? I mean, the fact that that is a possibility. If that happens, this will go down as one of the worst trades in NBA history. Like this,
when it happens,
a lot is going to have to go Dallas's way for this not to absolutely tank in retrospect. Like, again, they're going to be good now. Does this put them above OKC? I don't think so. Does this put them above Memphis even in the West? I don't think so. I think they're the 3rd best team in that conference. So to even get back to the finals is going to take one hell of a playoff carry from Kyrie and Anthony Davis. And I mean, obviously Quentin Grimes is not a huge part of that, but now the fact that they just lost him and they're bringing in Caleb Martin, which I don't believe is as good of a fit on that team, or I don't think is also just not as good a player, not as promising an upside. I think that just makes it even worse. It just feels like it's bad decision after bad decision for Dallas right now.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, good point, Gaten. They just keep shortening the window. Like Grimes was actually a good, talented young player, and now you trade him away to make the window that much smaller.
Yeah, I feel like the Mavericks, they're just in. Nico just woke up from a dream. I guess he had a prophecy that they were going to win in the next 2-3 seasons. And after that, it was over for his career. And he just panicked, pulled the trigger. He said something crazy. Like in that press conference, I felt like he was on drugs. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny. You see Jason Kidd standing there just like as mad as possible. Like, you ever been in the room with somebody and you talk crazy about them, but you still got to be in the room with them and act like things are normal? That's what it felt like. Like Jason Kidd's sitting there like, I don't agree with anything you're saying, but for the sake of this team, I have to sit here and shake my head. Like when he went up there and said, me and J Kidd are aligned, I know what players that he wants without asking him. And I seen Jason Kidd's face. Bro, he looked like he wanted to punch him in the face, bro. Nobody on that team felt like you should have traded away Luka for that sake. Like, it's guys who fit with Luka, not guys who I can replace instead of Luka to make this team better. So for me, I don't know, bro. I don't know where he goes down as GMs like all time, but it's got to be close to the bottom. Even if they win this year, let's say if they go back-to-back champions, bro, 10 years later, what happens in the next 5 to 8 year gap after that? Kyrie, older. Klay Thompson, older. Anthony Davis, older, exiting his prime. Who's your core? Like, I love Max Christie. I think he's great, but that's literally your youngest player now, if I'm not mistaken. Lively. My fault. And Lively.
That's about it. All I'm going to say to the Mavericks is y'all better win. If they win, you know what? Nico Harrison, if they win a championship, Nico Harrison he's going to be smoking the biggest pack ever. He's going to have all the receipts. He's going to have every single Twitter post that ever added him. He's just going to be sitting back and he's going to look like the biggest genius on planet Earth. But in all likelihood, when that doesn't happen, this is going to be really bad. Which, fun fact, I'm sure you guys have probably seen this story because it's been circulating the ether webs. He's also apparently the same guy who sold Steph Curry going to Nike and messed up the Steph Curry presentation, called him by his brother's name. It was basically just a copy-paste of, I think Durant's pitch presentation. Yep. So, I don't know. This guy's a bit of a history with perhaps not making the greatest moves when it comes to handling top-end talent, for better or for worse. I just can't believe that this is how it ends with the Luka era, is them literally going to the finals and then not being able – like they say they had concerns about his conditioning. The fact that they didn't feel comfortable going and actually confronting him and actually having these conversations and getting him to slim down, learn from his defensive lessons in the finals and learn that he actually has to be a defensive player to win a championship. He's 25. You give him those years to learn. You give him the 5-year Supermax and hope by the end of that, he's not a cone on defense and he's in slightly better shape. It just feels like just the absolute wrong way to go about trading your franchise player.
And then the presser today, bro, Luka basically exposed that whole fraudulent organization. They asked him about did he show any signs of not wanting to sign that contract or not willing to work on that Supermax contract. He said absolutely not. He said the way he was thinking, everything was pretty much lined up, bro. The way he was talking. And he was mad. They asked him about how he felt about Nico. He said that's his choice. That was his decision. And he just everything he said at that press conference showed me he's mad, bro. But I think he's channeling that anger into basketball. So anytime he plays the Mavericks, I don't even think it's crazy to predict every time he's going to average 50-plus points a game versus the Mavericks for the rest of his career. I'm not even trying to glaze. I don't care, bro. I don't even know if he shakes hands. I don't even know if the players.
He'll shake it with
yes.
The players had nothing to do with
Nico and the coaches?
No. Mm-mm. Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems like
J Kids. Yeah.
He'll probably say J Kids' hands. J Kids mad as he
did say he appreciated the coaching staff. Didn't say Nico Harrison. He pretty much said, I don't mess with him no more.
And the craziest thing about this whole trade to me is the fact that people are acting like this is a long-term move for the Lakers, that this is them, moving out of the LeBron era. I promise you, this had nothing to do with that. This is not a move that the Lakers really thought about. This was not them being like, we have an agenda to start moving away from LeBron. This was, wow, we can get Luka. Talk about LeBron.
Wow, we can get
LeBron enough help. We can go get him Luka Doncic to make the end of his career fruitful and give him a chance to win a championship. We're going to make that move. Anyone who's saying the Lakers don't have a better chance at winning the championship right now than they did pre this trade, I think is crazy. Respect Luka Doncic, for all his shortcomings, is still a better basketball player than Anthony Davis. And if the Lakers can go find themselves a half-decent center, you add Nick Claxton to this team, they're easily a Western Conference Finals contender, at the very least, if Luka is healthy. This is a win-now move to maximize the end of LeBron's career, and then you get Luka for the next 8 years after that. It's a win. It's a win-win. This is not the Lakers being like, we might trade LeBron. No, they're just going to keep LeBron and go to the finals. I don't see how people don't realize that.
You said if you add who, Max?
If you add Nick Claxton to this team, they're a Western Conference finalist. Probably. Them or Memphis, I think.
I'm glad you said it.
Team, they easily jump over Dallas and probably everyone else.
Don't run, Omar. Omar, imagine this time, instead of playing us and we switch on everything, plus you got to guard Luka now. We didn't have AD when we gave you all that belt. No offense.
Well, to be fair, if y'all
listen, I wasn't the one chatting shit the time we went back and forth. Earl, what did I say? Earl, I was the one. I was the one. I wasn't
gonna let you play that said because I knew it was a setup, Max. He tried to set me up with this underdog story. We're probably
y'all literally won.
I know, but I'm saying you set it up like this so you couldn't.
Max was literally the one telling you, we're going to win by 30. You're going to get smacked by 60. I wasn't the one telling you that. I was the one telling you, you know what? I'm not going to lie. Y'all probably will let it fly from 3 tonight because of the way we guard that 3-point line. It's pretty freaking terrible. And I had to come into the chat.
Can we talk about that game, though?
I came in this. Get into it. What? I'm sorry?
No, let's talk about that game in general. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little frustrating. I'm not gonna lie, because I had a feeling it was eventually gonna happen. I saw Dorian Finney-Smith hit like 4 for 4 at one point. I know he eventually got like 5 for 5 or something, but I saw him hit 4 for 4, and I was like, all right, we don't care anymore. I guess we're
The
just
Lakers
letting him take.
They better not move on from DFS. I think DFS just became exponentially more important to their future now that they have Luka and LeBron. I'm not gonna say he doesn't play defense, but the guy's 40 years old. He's probably gonna take some possessions off, as is his right. I think if you're the Lakers, you have to put every single player around LeBron and Luka as a defensive player, which is why I don't think they should trade for Nikola Vucevic. Even though I think Nikola Vucevic is a better player than someone like a Nick Claxton, I think you need absolute defensive, athletic freaks of nature next to slow-footed Luka, because he is slow-footed. We can all admit that.
Yeah. Next to Luka, DFS is probably next to Luka and LeBron, DFS is the third safest person on this roster. And
maybe Vando.
Vando after that. DFS, literally him and Luka were best buddies. Like, literally best buddies. That, yeah. They are not, like, DFS pretty much has a contract secured until Luka's like, I'm kind of tired of you. Like, he's locked in. So, I agree with you, bro. I think Claxton elevates our roster, like, hands down. At first, when we had AD, I didn't really like the move, but now you have Luka. You give Luka a lob threat who can play defense, hold down the paint. I mean, their gameplay pretty much goes up by times 10. I mean, shout out to Lively's and Gaffers of the world. But I don't know, man. Luka with a pick and roll killer, bro. I could cry, bro.
You know who would have been,
probably goes up too.
You know who would have been a good backup center for this team?
Who?
Drew Eubanks. But unfortunately, he's across the city right now. He got moved on his birthday, funny enough. He got traded.
That was hilarious. It was like a 40-minute difference, too. The Jazz posted it, and then they traded him.
He got 2 different fan bases to wish him a happy birthday. And now everyone's saying that getting traded from Utah is the best birthday gift you can get. I'm not going to disagree with that. I think it's solid. Just to touch on that move briefly, I know it happened a couple days ago, but I think that is a solid move for the Clippers. I think Eubanks, he's not really a basketball player. He's kind of just an enforcer. He's a guy. He's a big guy. He's going to bruise down low. If you have him as your starting center, you're in trouble. But as a backup,
I think he would disagree with you saying he's not really a basketball player.
He doesn't, he's fine. He's a big body, gets rebounds. He'll make some layups, decent touch around the rim, can hit a free throw now and then. He's a good enough backup. I think him and Zubac, that's a solid enough center rotation. I think the Clippers.
I think he would be somewhat upset with it.
They got off the PJ Tucker contract.
Nah, if we're gonna get an old head, I'll take Steven Adams for the bench. I'll take him as a rookie.
I don't know if the Rockets would give him up though. They are winning. I don't know if you trade Steven Adams to the Rockets.
Yeah, but
Lakers should get Plumlee. How's that working out for the Suns right now?
Nah, I mean, to be fair, between the bigs, Plumlee was definitely better than what's that dude's name? Nurkic.
Was he? I've heard Nick Richards has come into that team and been very good. I'll shout out Nick Richards. He's been a solid piece for that Suns team. They're not really winning much more because of him. Yeah, but that's not really his fault. He's come in and played about as well as you can expect.
They lost to Portland too. They lost to Portland last night too. That was a good game. That was funny.
Weren't they losing to Portland crazy when the Luka news broke and everyone on the Suns bench seemed to wait?
Oh, it was a back-to-back.
About the Luka news. They were down 30 to Portland.
Oh, we don't care about this game. Luka got traded. Yeah. Honestly speaking, I think the NBA right now is in a fun place. People talk about ratings. I think these new duos that have been built, I think it just brings more fun to the game. It was some things were getting a little bit boring. I told you before, I'm not turning on my TV to watch De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. I'll turn on to watch Zach Lavine hit 7 threes with Sabonis and a pick and roll action. I'll watch that before I watch De'Aaron Fox. I'll watch LeBron James and Luka Doncic pick and roll. I'll watch Wemby and De'Aaron Fox. Bulls, nobody's still watching the Bulls. I mean, respectfully.
No one's going to be watching the Bulls for the next few years. I don't
Mavericks.
I mean, we're just going to wait for Matas Buzelis to start going off. That's
true. Listen, this trade opens up space for Matas. Matas Buzelis could be Matas Buzelis now. That's the one W for the Bulls.
That's a good point in the chat. How do y'all feel about the Mavs refunding those season tickets? There was a lot of fans who got mad. They canceled their season tickets, so the Mavs decided they were refunding them. So
really? They did that? Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. They refunded That's
okay. Right, I would be okay.
They had to. I paid season tickets to watch Luka Doncic. That's who I paid for. I didn't pay for everybody else on this pass. Yeah. I'm paying for Luka.
So the Luka trade is already bad for business. It's already costing them money straight up.
And the one thing I hate about this too, I hate that AD got traded for Luka and Christie because they're gonna pin that on them. Like they're still great players. The fans aren't really gonna fully embrace those guys. Oh, Christie is too, but they're not gonna fully embrace those guys.
Come on.
I'm talking about Christie is one of the better role players right now that you can have.
Oh,
great win defender on one of the best value contracts in the NBA.
He's a good player. He's not a great player. Zach Lavine's a great player.
I mean, I'm saying great young player. I mean, doesn't matter. I'll say what I'm gonna say.
You didn't say that, but all right. I hear you.
I'm just saying, like, Mavs fans aren't gonna fully embrace that because they got traded for Luka, which sucks for them.
Yeah,
but they'll see shortly. They'll see what they're getting. Wait till they see 80.
I think we can touch on Jimmy real quick before we end.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, because it looks like that he is kind of just a report's coming out saying that people are like not that shocked, but people can kind of tell that he's just what's the word? Damn it! It's what's the word? Damn it!
I don't know. What word you thinking of? Difficult.
Omar, he's doing the review the call motion. What's that word?
That's what I mean. This one. He's really forcing his way to Phoenix, it looks like. He doesn't want to be with Memphis. He doesn't want to be.
He doesn't want to be anywhere but Phoenix.
This is exactly what I said, though. Tell me not. I told y'all this like 3 days ago.
He'd be traded. You told me he'd be traded.
I said he would be traded. But then when we had this, then when we started the live, I said that Jimmy Butler would find a way to do this with every single team. Because at that point already happened with Memphis. Then it happened with the Golden State.
He just shoots down any team that isn't Phoenix.
And I was like, all right, he's just forcing his way to Phoenix,
bro. It's not happening, bro. Bradley Beal is the most powerful man in the NBA, bro. You're going to have to play Bradley Beal on top of his money. You're going to have to pay him $50 million for him to be like, you know what, I'll lift my – give me a $50 million endorsement outside of basketball and I'll lift my no-trade clause. That's what it's going to take. Some illegal doings to get him out there, respectfully.
If at this point, if Luka Doncic gets traded before Jimmy Butler's not getting traded.
I'm just saying. Wendy got
De'Aaron Fox. The entire De'Aaron Fox news cycle. He's looking to be traded. Here's the team he wants. Boom, the trade is done. That all happened. Luka Doncic that happened before Jimmy Butler even woke up in the morning. He's not at this point.
I kind of feel like we had that coming. I felt like that was already something that was going to happen. But Brian Windhorst came out and said something earlier. It was posted on YouTube. Maybe I was watching it late. But he said that at one point, Bradley Beal was interested in going to Miami, but he doesn't know if he's still interested in going to Miami anymore and stuff like that. But the end result of that was what team would he waive that trade clause for?
I don't think any team. I really don't think any team. I think
he wants to stay.
He wants to win with Durant and Booker.
Yeah, and I think what's funny is, and I think Durant and Booker could care less at this point because they're like, we kind of want Jimmy, but we kind of want Bradley, so it's kind of like, yeah, they're kind of the same player. We could kind of do a swap, but I said this on Twitter. I don't really see a feasible way Jimmy really gets to Phoenix. I mean, unless he just refuses every single trade until he gets to free agency. But I don't know how he does this.
I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's gonna wind up back on the Heat. And or the Heat gonna just bench him for the rest of the season? I don't know what's going to happen, but I would bet you, I think my prediction of him not being traded looks good right now. It's weird because I've gone from, it looked like at first he wasn't.
I mean, but
now Bradley Beal isn't waiving his contract, his no trade clause. So now I'm back on the it's not happening trade. I think the whole.
I mean, I don't know. I think they're gonna wait. I think they're gonna wait like a month, and then I think if Brad doesn't waive his trade deal, Jimmy's gonna be like, "All right, Golden State, come pick me up. I guess whatever."
Yeah, I think he's just playing hardball. I 100% agree with what Omar just said. I think it's like I'm gonna force them to try to make this pressure decision. If they can't get it done at the last minute of the deadline, then he'll go. They'll make that deal with Golden State. I think that's what it is. I think he just wants to be on the Suns so bad, but if the Suns can't make it happen, they can't make it happen. They won't make it happen, and they'll have to pivot somewhere else. Because after what he's done, I don't think he can stay in Miami, man.
Bro, I would be trading him for bench pieces at this point if I'm Pat Riley. I'm sorry.
But you can't, bro. He has a no trade clause. Oh no, he doesn't. The power Jimmy has is he's telling teams, I'm not gonna sign an extension for you.
Yeah.
That's his power. Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's almost as powerful as no trade clause.
Yeah. It's up there.
Yeah.
Before we wrap the show up, I do want to ask you guys, who do you think is next to be traded? You know, the trade deadline's coming up. It's in 2 days now? It's February 6th at like 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I don't know. So it's about 48 hours. Who do you think's going next? Caden in the chat is saying Kevin Durant.
Wow. Kevin Durant.
No, I would have called you crazy last week. But if Luka Doncic can get traded, Kevin Durant can get traded again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna throw a wild card out there, I guess. Julius Randle.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, get us. If I'm the Timberwolves, I'm getting as much assets from him as I can. I'm moving on.
Khris Middleton.
Ooh, see, that's what I don't really understand. Respectfully, I don't know where Khris Middleton's value lies outside.
I think he stays there, but I think they have to find a new number 3.
I'm trying to throw a name that nobody's really saying, to be honest.
Fair. I mean, no one is saying Khris Middleton, but I think that's a name no one's saying for a good.
I still think the Bucks could be like
ankle surgery. Like
I think a new face next to Giannis and Dame could be good, bro. Because I don't think the Bucks are bad. They had a really terrible start to the season, but adding another piece to kind of fit alongside those two guys can definitely increase their window, in my opinion, a little bit.
I think the Bucks could definitely use a new face. I just don't know what team is going to take Khris Middleton right now. I don't know what team is going to give you a good enough player to justify trading Khris Middleton right now. Because we know he fits next to Giannis. We know, Giannis likes him. He plays well on that team. He's kind of the veteran. I don't see any team being willing, giving you a player of similar value. Like unless you're just going to on that trade. But maybe you never know. Maybe.
I also say one of the Bulls guards, but they got too many guards on that team, especially with that new trade bringing in Jones. I think they have to move at least one guard. So I think the Bulls probably make a trade.
Maybe Lonzo.
My wild call.
I could see Lonzo getting moved to like a contender. I'll also throw Vucevic out there. He was going to be.
Dan said that he thinks OG might get traded.
That won't happen.
I don't think so.
And you want to bet? I don't bet money, but you want to bet on that? I'll make that move. MPJ or Bogey? I can see Bogey.
Honestly,
I can see either of them actually. I can really see MPJ being moved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Vucevic was going to be my pick. I think if you trade Lavine now, you got to trade Vucevic. It's kind of it's like, what's the point of keeping Vucevic now if you're not having Lavine there? Paul George, it feels early for them to trade him. And I also think his value's at an all-time low right now, so I don't think they're going to want to trade him. They're going to hope he plays.
I have a hot take for this summer. I think the Philadelphia 76ers are going to start shopping Joel Embiid this summer.
I don't know if that's a hot take. At this point, I think that might be a realistic take. They're not shopping him yet, but like if this season does not end well for them, I could absolutely.
If that season doesn't end with him trying to come back and playing back-to-backs, they're going to shop him.
Well, the good news is there's no back-to-backs in the playoffs, so if they make the playoffs, then we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but we do appreciate you guys watching this episode of BTB. If you want to check us out, we are on YouTube and also on X, Beyond the Backboard Podcast. Also put our link to our YouTube channel in the chat. But appreciate you guys for stopping by, and we will catch you next time. Peace.
Adios.